Russia-Ukraine war. Russia intensifies shelling of eastern Ukraine. Russian forces have intensified shelling of eastern Ukraine, where they are trying to encircle Ukrainian troops. The shelling has caused widespread damage and civilian casualties. Russia-Ukraine war. Russia's first lunar mission in decades crashes into the moon. Russia's Lunar 25 spacecraft crashed into the moon on its way to land, marking the first major failure of a Russian lunar mission in decades. The spacecraft was carrying scientific instruments to study the moon's surface and atmosphere. Ecuadorians vote to ban oil drilling in the Amazon in historic referendum. Ecuadorians have voted to ban oil drilling in the Yasuni National Park, a biodiverse rainforest in the Amazon. The referendum is considered a major victory for environmental groups who have been campaigning against oil drilling in the park. Ecuadorians protest against government's decision to lift fuel subsidies. Ecuadorians have taken to the streets to protest against the government's decision to lift fuel subsidies. The protests have turned violent in some areas, and the government has imposed a state of emergency in several provinces. Anti-corruption candidate Bernardo Arevalo wins Guatemala's presidential election. Bernardo Arevalo, an anti-corruption lawyer, has won Guatemala's presidential election. Arevalo's victory is seen as a major blow to the country's political establishment, which has been plagued by corruption scandals. China's Xi visits South Africa in just his second trip abroad this year. Chinese President Xi Jinping has visited South Africa in just his second trip abroad this year. The visit is seen as an attempt by China to strengthen its ties with Africa. Guatemala's new president faces challenges from corruption and crime. Guatemala's new president, Alejandro Giammattei, has inherited a country plagued by corruption and crime. Giammattei has promised to crack down on both problems, but he faces a daunting task. British nurse who murdered 7 babies loses appeal. A British nurse who was convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 3 others has lost her appeal against her conviction. The nurse, who has not been named, is now expected to spend the rest of her life in prison. British nurse to spend rest of her life in prison for murdering 7 babies. A British nurse has been sentenced to life in prison with a minimum term of 35 years for murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 3 others. The nurse, who has not been named, worked at a hospital in Liverpool, England. Tropical storm Hillary weakens as it moves inland in California. Tropical storm Hillary has weakened as it moves inland in California. The storm is expected to bring heavy rain and flooding to some areas, but the threat of major damage has decreased. Here are some other news headlines from around the world. Number 1, Tropical storm Hillary brings heavy rain and flooding to California. Tropical storm Hillary has brought heavy rain and flooding to parts of California. The storm has caused power outages and forced evacuations in some areas. Number 2, 2 people killed in drone attack in Moscow. 2 people have been killed and several others injured in a drone attack in Moscow. The attack targeted a military facility in the city. Number 3, Saudi Arabian border guards accused of killing hundreds of Ethiopian migrants. A human rights group has accused Saudi Arabian border guards of killing hundreds of Ethiopian migrants in recent years. The group says the guards have fired on migrants who were trying to cross the border into Saudi Arabia. Number 4, Japan to decide on Fukushima water release today. Japan is set to decide today whether to release radioactive water from the Fukushima nuclear plant into the ocean. The decision has been met with opposition from environmental groups who fear the release could contaminate the environment. These are just a few of the top news headlines from around the world today. For more news,
become a subscriber and get exclusive access to our content. We're more than just a channel, we're a community. Subscribe and join us on the journey. Thanks for watching.